Hi there, this is Neil Howman from the Flint, and welcome to another edition of the Flint Podcast. And this time I'm joined by Elodie Levrel, who's Corporate Marketing Communications Director at Broadpeak. Hi,
Hi,
Elodie.
Neil. Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm in recovery, as I'm sure you are, after,
I yeah, I feel better.
yeah, so did you get home okay? And
Yeah, all good after NAB.
yeah,
This year I was just exhausted like everybody else. I bet.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah.
good weekend of sleep and feeling better
Yeah, that
now.
that weekend is really vital, I find, to just recalibrate after that time in the desert, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're in New York.
Yes, I'm
Just
based in New York City, indeed.
just for the
Yes.
benefit of our listeners, our global audience, Elodie, it's good to sort of place you. And I'm actually in well, I'm on the Pacific Northwest at the moment, which is not where I normally reside. But I have to say the weather today is reminding me where I usually reside. But we've had some beautiful weather, to be fair. Um,
Good.
I'm really grateful that you've made some time to join us, it's fantastic. And it was great to see you at the NAB show in Las Vegas last week. Um,
Well, yeah.
what
Thank
I
you for
thought,
inviting, oops,
oh
sorry, for
well,
inviting
we
me in the
can.
podcast.
Yeah, well, I was speaking to your agent for ages to try and get this book. I mean, you're difficult to get. Your agent was, saying she's fully booked up. She's
There's a lot of work to be done for sure.
That's right. That's right. So, look, before we get into the conversation proper, I think it would be beneficial for our listeners because the Flint's trying to cover sort of sustainability, ESG related topics right
Mhm.
across the media and entertainment space, and indeed beyond that, and so for people who may not have heard of Broadpeak, would you mind just giving us a very sort of short headline introduction as to what Broadpeak does?
Yeah, sure. I'll stay very high level.
High level, yeah.
But so Broadpeak provides video streaming solutions for video service providers where they can be, content providers, broadcasters, or telco operators or cable operators providing TV and video streaming services. So we provide a software to optimize the delivery, and it can be deployed on premises or used as a service through our SaaS platform as well.
That's great. And Broadpeak was launched in 2011, I guess. It was
In 2010, to be exact,
2010.
yes.
Right.
So it's 14 years in business
Wow.
already, and I've joined them in 2011.
Well,
So 13 years working for Broadpeak, yes.
which is around the time I think I first met you. So
I believe so, yeah.
quite some time ago now, but and a French company, but obviously now with a global business,
Totally,
global
yes.
profile.
We headquartered in Brittany, northern western part of France,
Mm.
where there are lots of video telco companies, but we've pretty much global. So, well, I'm based in New York City. We have several offices in the US. We are in Latin America. We have a big office in Singapore as well, in Dubai. I think we are represented in 23 countries, if I'm correct.
That's quite an impressive story so far. Am I right in saying that you originally come from Brittany? Is that
I was born and raised in Brittany, where the headquarters are located. So it's
wonderful?
uh,
We might get to how you and Broadpeak met
mhm.
as we go along. But let's go back a week, shall we, to NAB. Again, for the benefit of our listeners, this is the National Association of Broadcasters show in Las Vegas. Pretty large broadcast show, I would say. And obviously, it was great to see you there, Elodie and Broadpeak. But I just wondered from your perspective or a Broadpeak perspective, whichever you wish to choose, on this issue of sustainability in our industry. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts, your perceptions, your takeaway on the
Yeah.
show last week.
Um, I have to say I was a little bit disappointed because I felt that the sustainability topic wasn't addressed as much as I would have thought,
Yeah.
especially because last year I felt like it was a big important topic that was addressed a bit more. And I felt it went down a bit. So maybe that's a very personal
Mm,
perception as well.
yeah.
And I found it very interesting. Neil Romanek actually posted that video on LinkedIn where he was showing a little poll that was organized by NAB with balls and tubes that people had to vote for the issue that they thought was becoming a challenge, or I believe for the next few years, or
Yeah,
a
a
very important
prominent
matter.
topic. Yes. Yeah.
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 And sustainability was the one with the most votes from the attendees,
Was
but
indeed.
it didn't reflect on at least on what companies were exhibiting at the show. I didn't see much of products or solutions that were for sustainability, or at least they were not presented as solutions for sustainability. So I know there were conferences, awards organized. So that was really good,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel like such an important topic on the agenda, on the booth, and I would have
Mm.
hoped and I think really expected more as well.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I had the opportunity to cover essentially all of the halls that were
Right.
active, and obviously with my Flint hat on. Oh, by the way, I must thank you for that lovely segue into Neil Romanek, editor of the Flint, and you can see these great videos that Neil shot. On the Flint LinkedIn page. So thank you, Elodie. There was no money that changed hands for that plug, but I'm very grateful.
You're welcome.
But I happen to completely agree with you that obviously my antenna was up to see who was, being very forthcoming with their signage, with their messaging, and it was practically non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I thought at IBC last year in Amsterdam, obviously there was many more companies with that forward-looking.
Yeah, I wonder if that's also not uh, a thing of in Europe. I think sustainability is a matter that
Mm,
is more important, but also more regulated now, with the EU and some governments doing more
yeah.
than is actually happening in the US. So that might be related somehow.
Well, I was going to ask you, because you're obviously based in the US at the moment. Now, the conversations I was having on the floor at NAB were about, you know, it is so much about, well, how do we make money out of making these sustainability trends? But again, shameless plug here. There's an excellent article on the flint.media, everybody, about the fact that if the profit future, if you don't make the transition to sustainability, well, there isn't one. The
Yeah.
profitability profile, let alone environmental factors,
It,
so it's kind of, it makes financial sense, but of course that argument has to be kept
yeah.
made, I
But
guess. Yeah.
I also felt that one of the trends or one of the topics that was discussed the
Mm,
most, at least, around us
yeah.
at Broadpeak during NAB, it was more like, how do we spend less? How do we optimize? How do we cut the cost for our streaming services? Or how do we monetize? And I do think that this, if you want to cut costs, in the meantime, you can also cut your energy and it just goes together.
It really
I
does.
do believe, and it, no matter the reason why you do it, I do think that it goes yeah, it really goes together.
I couldn't agree with you more that if you show that they actually needed less capacity and look, you save some money. Oh, and by the way, there's a
Yeah,
real benefit to energy, carbon consumption,
yeah. And
then
maybe that's the way vendors, including us, but we're trying to do that as well, is the way to pitch sustainability. It's like,
we
hey,
are.
this is a sustainable product,
Mm.
and on top of saving the planet or helping contributing reduce the carbon emission, you're also gonna save money on the way. So, this it's a no-brainer. Just go for it.
Absolutely, and I think that imagination has to come into the argument, especially in North America, as you
Yeah.
say. But look, let's not all be doom and gloom about NAB. It was good that there was an NAB Sustainability Awards,
Yes.
and there was a wonderful interview with the executive producer of True Detective, and essentially a half-hour case study about how they filmed it in Iceland and made substantial cuts in costs there because they had, it was all geothermal power and electric vehicles and a really well-trained crew on the ground who were very committed to,
Mhm.
you know, recycling everything that they use as far as, not just water and,
Yeah.
waste, but set materials. So that was great. And there were a couple
Yeah.
of great initiatives.
There are progresses, there are
Yeah.
initiatives, there
It's
are
forward.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the first day or like the day before the show started, the MTSS organized by
PSS.
Lisa and Barbara was, I think, really good to get people started or advance on their path to
Indeed.
sustainability.
And we just have to keep going on it, don't we? We just have to keep going on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move away from Las Vegas because it's very
Not
hot.
the most sustainable place in the world.
Not the most sustainable place anywhere, I would say. But anyway, back to your background. So obviously, you grew up you from Brittany. Um, Education, you educated in Brittany. I think you moved around a little bit, didn't you?
Yes, after high school, I moved around a bit. I wanted to travel and explore the world and get exposed to different cultures.
Yeah.
So I did travel a bit, and then I studied in languages and business, and eventually in international events management. I have a master's
You in,
degree in that.
were you in Barcelona for a while? Was that right?
Yeah, I had that,
Yeah.
study abroad or Erasmus for
That's right.
Europeans, so we
Oh,
know program in Barcelona. Yeah.
fantastic, fantastic. And so your route into Broadpeak, I think you'd done a few things before that. Was that right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I worked in a different industry before joining Broadpeak, academic world, catering world as well. I'm a big foodie, so that was more like a
Well,
passion job than anything.
yeah. Well, you know that Neil Romanek, editor of the Flint,
Mhm,
and I've seen this more and more as we've looked into more the sustainable production side of the business, film
mhm,
production. There was a fantastic catering company that spoke at a conference, about the whole sustainable catering for film production, and that's a whole
Yeah.
that's a whole podcast right there, I reckon.
Oh yes, and food sustainability, just a little, side note, is a passion of mine
Oh,
and
wonderful.
is really key to actually solve most of the issues related to global warming and capture carbon
Oh,
way
absolutely.
more. So it is a real important matter, and including, as part of the production sets for films or series or whatever, especially because it brings lots of disposable items or things that we should
Huge area.
reusable. But yeah, it's an entire whole podcast.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if you ever
then,
want me to talk about food and sustainability, let me
then
know.
I'm gonna get onto your agent and book you for early 2025, perhaps, and we can talk about that. No, but we honestly, joking apart, we'd love to dig into that much
Mhm.
better because as you say, it's a massive issue. Are you part of on the catering side? Are you part of an organization? Did I see that? Am I making the
I volunteer for a few
right?
nonprofits that work on, making the food systems more sustainable. And I recently got a certification into food and sustainability by the European Institute of Innovation for
Oh,
Sustainability. So yeah.
congratulations. I think I saw that. Wonderful.
Mhm.
Well, we're going to save that for the future catering
Yes.
related podcast, I think. We'd love to have
Yes.
you back on that. Okay, so we're tapping in a little bit to your
Sorry.
terrible title, Sustainability Journey. But
Mhm.
if we just take that maybe specifically to the M&E space,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Broadpeak and joining Pro, can you identify a sort of time, a moment? Was there just a sort of realization personally when you personally realized that something we needed
Yeah.
to do a lot more?
I so on a personal level, I think it's something I've always been sort of exposed to, maybe because of like growing in France,
Yeah.
recycling, like I was always taught to recycle. There was programs since I was a little girl in Brittany and globally in France, I believe. So that was not something unfamiliar to me. But I believe I had like a moment of, sort of awareness that we
Mm,
needed, like it was a topic, it was something, and we had to do some, or I had to do something.
yeah.
I think about 10 years ago, there was lots of different things in my life, some like relatives passing away, me entering my 30s and, questioning lots of
Well,
things.
absolutely. These big
Uh,
milestones in life. Yeah.
yeah, I became vegetarian,
Yeah.
almost vegetarian back then. So there was lots of,
Yeah.
different things, different events that, slowly but surely made me think like I have to do something.
Mm,
And shortly after I moved to New York City, and I remember that one, it's a little anecdote, but I think that really triggers something into me. I moved in June, and I believe sometime in May, before I left in France, the government passed a law to prohibit plastic bags in supermarkets.
oh, right. Excellent.
Couple of weeks later, I moved to New York City, and I go, my first days there, I go to
Yeah.
supermarket, buy just, a few things to eat, and they double bag with plastic bags
Plastic bag.
the 2 or 3 items I had. And that I was so shocked that there was such a difference in
Yeah.
terms of where we at with plastic between France and New York or the US.
Absolutely.
I was like, okay, there is so much to be done. And I felt that yeah, I had to be part of that and try to change
So,
this.
so when was that? When did you move to New? I can't
It was
remember.
in 2016,
Right. So,
eight
oh,
years ago.
like 7, 8 years ago already. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
8 years ago.
Um, but I used to watch those American series when I was a kid, and they get those fantastic brown paper bags, groceries. It was kind of iconic. And then, I
Plastic.
agree. I come over and you want a bag with that, and you go, yeah, thinking, gonna at least get a paper bag or something.
Yeah.
Is double plastic. So when you experienced this, when was it that you started thinking, well, looking around the industry you were in, looking around the company you were working for, when do you really think it picked up and you thought, what can we do internally here?
Yeah. I think we were already doing some things, at least, as at the corporate level in the headquarters. But again, because recycling is just a very normal thing to do in France, And we had some initiatives. We got lots of people that are very into sports at
Yeah,
the office. So lots of them would cycle to the office. So, there was already a good foundation for having
yeah,
sustainable habits without necessarily calling them
mm,
sustainable habits or practices. But I guess really what made a change was maybe the COVID-19, the pandemic.
of course, yes.
It changed everybody's mindsets as well, and how do we take care of people, and I think all the issues that came along with COVID sort of make everybody question and reconsider all the things that we were thinking as, just obvious or normal. So I think that was quite a shift. And also Broadpeak was growing very, very fast at this time. Well,
Good
it was
one.
still growing, but we had a few years where we were growing so much and so fast.
Mm,
We started thinking, okay, how do we do that? How do we handle that? And that's something that I care so much about. I was, as I'm part of also the top management of the company, I'm
mm,
just trying to bring that. Um, and we were doing some things, thinking of, okay, what are our values? What can we do in terms of corporate social responsibilities? And then we realized we were already doing some things, but try to start planning to
yeah.
do more and also tell the story, because it was becoming more and more important for our customers as well. And again, what I would say really accelerated that, not transition, but that's like, okay, we really need to make it a topic, and one of the things that need a plan, need a strategy as much as product or sales or everything, was when we became public in June 2022, because obviously you have other third party and other people involved in the company that are coming with new visions, new angles that we had to take into consideration.
Well, there's so much to unpick there. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, if I compare, say, mainland Europe to where I was growing up in England, there was always a sense that they were so much ahead as far as
Mhm.
recycling policy and strategy,
Yeah.
and that was always. I always remember feeling quite ashamed about that growing up in England, and and the electrification of rail was so much further, advanced, and recycling, and I thought, why can't we do it? The French, Germans, and have been doing it for years, in
Mhm.
Scandinavia. But one thing I've certainly noticed since we launched the Flint is, Scandinavia, and particularly France, in this French companies in this industry have really been taking the lead on talking about sustainability issues. And I think you've already answered that. That's probably sort of culturally was always there. Would that be?
Yeah, well, first, I think there's lots of French companies in our industry,
Well, they are. There
for
are.
whatever reason.
Well, that's a great thing, especially if they're leading on these initiatives.
Well, yes, and I guess, yeah, probably that's a cultural thing that we have, or we grew up with, so it's maybe a bit more obvious for us.
Sure.
But I think also, again, the regulations, the
Mhm.
work that, the policies that we have sometimes force us into, doing more.
Sure.
But that's good. That's coming for the whole EU anyway,
Oh,
with the
the EU, yes, sorry,
CSRD.
yes. I suppose
You
that
know,
came from the French government, were very prominent in that, but I'm certainly aware of obviously the EU has been, at the
yeah.
vanguard of putting in more regulatory framework and everything.
Mhm.
I've always thought, as far as Broadpeak is concerned, maybe because I know you best in Broadpeak, but I've always thought that you've been very much the champion of pushing sustainability further. And I really want to, congratulate and compliment you on that, because
Thank
again,
you.
conversations that we are having in a number of different areas of the broader media and entertainment space, it does take that leadership or advocacy from someone
Yeah.
or a group of people.
And I think also it has to be genuine. Like you have to have champions that truly believe.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying others don't believe in it. I'm just saying for others it's not top priority. For me, it really drives me every
Oh, and
day.
yeah.
And I think that's key, especially in SME, like smaller companies that
Hmm.
can't afford to have a person dedicated to sustainability strategy, or even a team, or the new trendy job is being CSO, Chief
Yeah.
Sustainability Officer.
Mhm.
But not every company can afford or is willing either to have a dedicated department or people working on that. So I feel like that's where, yeah, you need champions, you need people that are going to, I think, explain as well why it's important, because it might seem for some, and I understand there's so much to deal with when you run a company,
Oh, of
right?
course.
And sometimes sustainability doesn't feel like a top priority, but if you explain why it's important and how easily at least some things can be done,
Sure.
other things might require more effort or commitment. So yeah, and because that's a passion of mine, that's, as I said, it's something that drives me, and I feel that's where I can bring value. It was important for me to make sure that I could share this within Broadpeak and make sure that we could move forward on the sustainability path. I'm not the only one, in the company.
No, no, of course. But I get the impression that it's been a very supportive environment within Broadpeak that's allowed you to do this. And I think
And
that's the
yeah.
point, isn't it?
Entirely. It's again like maybe not everybody was thinking about it that much, but everybody was like welcoming and supporting the move into a more sustainable path, or adding sustainable strategy to the global strategy as well, to make sure that we would be efficient in that. That's tricky though. I think we discussed it quickly last week at NAB, and I wanted to mention it
Yeah.
because being the communication and marketing
Oh,
director,
yes, I remember this point. Yeah.
it's I always struggle. Well, I'm always a bit concerned that people might think that, oh yeah, they're doing it for marketing. It's almost like greenwashing, because that's the marketing person talking about sustainability. And I really wear two different hats. And I'm not saying that we should market and talk about all the sustainable things we do, because that's how you also broaden and bring awareness to other companies and other people. So we do have to market that, but I'm not doing it because I'm a marketing person. I'm doing it because I truly believe in those values.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one because, I obviously we've all heard of greenwashing, but I came across green hushing, which I think I mentioned to you, and that's a new one by me. And we work in I'm really interested in this sustainability thing, but that's basically companies who are doing great stuff but are not going to talk about it in case they get negative.
Yeah.
To me personally, it seems so much more important an issue than all of that. You know, that the only way we're going to really affect real change on the scale that we need to is we need to talk about it. We're trying to create this space where like-minded, committed people can just talk about it because
Mhm.
it's that
And
important.
yeah, and I think it's important to have publication like the Flint or others, and research and get people into, like, do not just buy or agree with whatever you hear. Do some research, check the data, because that's the only way to really go in the right direction as well. And it's important to, yeah, get good sources of information and checking facts every time as well, especially in that respect.
And more of that data, thankfully, is coming on coming on stream now. Forgive the pun.
Yes.
You know, Greening of Streaming are doing some great work with the letter chord, but we're seeing data coming from other areas of the
Yeah.
industry, and that's absolutely to be encouraged, to be shared, to be discussed, to be talked about, and
Yeah.
just to inspire everyone to start that journey somewhere. And probably, if we are, wow, we've been talking 40 minutes, just goes, doesn't it? I wanted to, and I know you don't, want to talk specifically about, and completely understandably about, you know, fashioning the industry for the future in a way of sort of more, gender equality and diversity and things. But this is all part of what we're doing, and it's
Of
all
course,
part
yeah.
of that conversation. And I know that you support many of the great initiatives out.
Yeah.
I wanted to maybe just give you an opportunity to, you know, to say from your perspective,
Yeah.
what
It's
happens, what needs to happen, things like that.
you I think you're so right, Neil. Sustainability, we often or lots of people associate it with the environment,
That's
which
it.
is a
Yeah.
big part of it
Sure.
and a very urgent matter.
Yeah.
But that's not the only one, indeed. There's lots of, improvement to be made for gender equality, social justice, and, many other things. And we're in an industry that is very male populated, if you can
Yes.
say so.
Yeah.
Um, but I believe it's a historical thing as well, right?
Oh,
It's,
sure. Yeah.
like years back, I think men have been pushed more into this industry than women, or maybe women were less,
Yeah.
um, not less welcome. I don't think that's the case. I've mostly met like nice people in this industry
Yeah.
and
So you've
nice
had a good
men.
experience. Your experience has been very positive
Yeah,
generally, I would say.
not much to complain about,
Yeah.
but we do need more women in this industry,
Absolutely.
and we need more, yeah, gender equality for the women that are already here and the one that are coming. But I do believe that we can't entirely change
No.
everything now and say like, okay, let's bring, millions of women in the industry. They need to be trained. So I think it does start, sorry, in at like a younger age
Sure.
in education and at school, and changing a bit the perception of, oh, engineering jobs are more for men than women, and tell young girls that they can go into engineering, they can go into broadcast, they can go into video, they can be behind or in front of the camera, like, and so I think there's a real education work and sort of society mindset, and there's been lots of progress in some countries, at least, with
Mhm.
that, on that point. But we'll only be able to, have more women in the industry if we teach more girls the younger age that they can join this industry. So
It feels very much like there's been some real positive progress, and there's some great
it
initiatives out there.
It's
But
yeah, we have a few of our engineers in a developer team,
hmm,
women that went to high schools in Brittany at the headquarters to tell young girls like 15, 16, 17 about what they do and what the job is, and share the experience as a woman in this world, and try to like make them pursue the career they want to pursue, even though we know it's not always easy. So, and I think that's initiatives like that, like, women sharing with young girls what's the
absolutely.
experiences, and motivate them to
Yeah.
go for it.
I think it all ties into just building this momentum, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, really great initiatives, and many more of them, please. Okay, so let's just finish off with, I think that's part of it that you've just tapped into there, the whole education and building this groundswell. If there's any changes that you feel you could make immediately or in a very short term, is there One or two things you could share?
I have a wish.
Okay, we do wishes here. We can't
Yeah.
always grant them, but we certainly do them.
All right, perfect. I mean, anyone who's listening, like, please, at the next major trade show, which I believe will be IBC, we've got CapSat and Broadcast Asia in between,
Yeah,
but probably everything is sorted already. So every company or everyone actually going to IBC, please exhibit, show your solutions for sustainability, talk about it, and ask questions. If you go as a visitor, ask questions. I really feel that we all need to, if we all talk about it and ask for it and want it, and we have more and more customers really being extremely demanding in terms of sustainability, but that's what we need, right? We need customers to tell us that they want more sustainable products so that us as vendor, we then go into it. But also, if everybody talks about it, it's going to become hopefully as discussed as AI. That would be great.
wouldn't that be a wish fulfilled? You know,
Right? Yes.
that
So
would.
I think that's what we need to do more. And thank you, the Flint, for only talking about those issues, because I do believe there's so much to be discussed, and yeah, we need conversation, we need education, we need exchange of ideas, sharing best practices. We all in this together. We're not competing. It's not like customers and vendors anymore. It's like, how do we all make the streaming or the broadcast industry more sustainable? And we'll only manage to do so all together. So
I couldn't have put it better myself. I mean, we are part of something bigger than any one
yeah.
thing. If we all knew how to do it, we'd be doing it. So let's, yeah.
And again, maybe we're dreamers, you and I,
Oh,
but
I think so.
if you're not sure about talking about sustainability, bring the cost effectiveness of it or the cost savings that sustainability can bring. I don't mind why you're doing it, if you believe in it or not. Just, talk about it, and that could be a good angle.
Absolutely, and we've got to stop treating sustainability as that sort of additional luxury, haven't we? It's not an additional luxury item.
It has to be part of every company strategy as much as everything else. Yeah, at least, if not.
Well said, Elodie. And look, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know you have huge amounts of things, and obviously leading sustainability and being one of
but
Broadpeak, but also a million and one other things. So we're really, really grateful.
thank you for hosting me, because I think it's again important to talk about it. So I'm happy I could find some time, and that you're doing the work as well to spread the
Thank you
message.
so much. And can you come back and let's just talk catering? I know you're going to make Neil Romanek very happy, and I'm really intrigued to find out more and more.
Yeah. Well, can I do a mini advertising for myself?
Of course.
Because there was that catering part, but I'm a big foodie and I love going to restaurants. So I'm keep building a list of sustainable restaurants that for now is only on Instagram at elo_eco_eateries. And I'm looking at building a website and an app. So anyone that would have a bit of spare time to help me with that, because I'm not a developer, please get in touch.
Well, there's a quick plug, and that's totally allowed. This is the Flint, after all. We just care and share.
And I'm happy to share sustainable restaurants in Amsterdam. Well, in Las Vegas, there's not that many, but in Amsterdam there are a few. So when you go to IBC, if you're looking for places to reduce your impact while eating out, just get in touch.
Well, Elodie, you send me the details, and we'll make sure they go up when we put this up. But for now, thank you so much.
Thank you very much as well, Neil.
Bye.
Bye.